Baltimore Sun's editorial board. This is what they had, I think, in today's paper. I'm going to quote it. In case anyone missed it, the President of the United States had some choice words to describe Maryland's 7th Congressional District on Saturday morning. Here are the key phrases. No human being would want to live there. It's a very dangerous and filthy place. Worse in the USA. And the editorial board's favorite, it's a rat and rodent-infested mess. He wasn't really speaking of the 7th Congressional District as a whole. He failed to mention Ellicott City, for example, or Baldwin, or Moncton, or Pretty Boy, all of which are contained in the sprawling yet oddly shaped district that runs from western Howard County to southern Hartford County. No, Donald Trump's wrath was directed at Baltimore, and specifically Representative Elijah Cummings, who has represented the district since 1996. It's not hard to see what's going on here. The congressman has been a thorn in this president's side, and Mr. Trump sees attacking African-American members of Congress as good politics, as it both warms the cockles of his white supremacists who love him and causes so many of the thoughtful people who don't to scream. C'est moi. President Trump badmouthed Baltimore in order to make a point that the border camps are, in his words, clean, efficient, and well-run, which, of course, they are not. Unless you are fine with all the overcrowding, squalor, cages, and deprivation to be found in what the Department of Homeland Security's own Inspector General recently called, quote, a ticking time bomb. Let me add, in my opinion, the United States right now is a ticking time bomb. In addition to the global problems that are facing us, about which we're doing nothing, the United States, because of Trump, is a ticking time bomb. There will be blood. There will be blood. In pointing to the 7th District, the president wasn't hoping his supporters would recognize landmarks like Johns Hopkins Hospital, perhaps the nation's leading medical center. He wasn't conjuring images of the U.S. Social Security Administration, where they write the checks that so many retired and disabled Americans depend upon. It wasn't about the beauty of the Inner Harbor or the proud history of Fort McHenry. And it surely wasn't about the economic standing of a district where the median income is actually above the national average. No, Trump was returning to an old standby of attacking an African-American lawmaker from a majority black district on the most emotional and bigoted of arguments. It was only surprising that there wasn't room for a few classic phrases like "you people," or "welfare queens," or "crime-ridden ghettos," or a suggestion that Congressman Cummings go back to where he came from. This is a president who will happily debase himself at the slightest provocation. And given Mr. Cummings' criticisms of U.S. border policy, the various investigations he has launched as chairman of the House Oversight Committee, his willingness to call Trump a racist for his recent attacks on the freshman congresswomen, and the fact that Fox and Friends had recently aired a segment critical of the city, slamming Baltimore, must have been irresistible in a Pavlovian way for Trump. Fox News rang the bell, the president salivated, and his thumbs moved across his cell phone into action. As heartening as it has been to witness public figures rise to our defense on Saturday, from native daughter House Speaker Nancy Pelosi to Mayor Bernard Young, we would above all remind Mr. Trump that the 7th District, Baltimore included, is part of the United States that he's supposed to be governing. The White House has far more power to effect change in this city, for good or ill, than any single member of Congress, including Mr. Cummings. If there are problems here, rodents included, They are as much his responsibility as anyone's, perhaps more because he holds the most powerful office in the land. Finally, while we do not sink to name-calling in the Trumpian manner, or ruefully point out that he failed to spell the congressman's name correctly, it's Cummings, not Cumming, we would tell the most dishonest man to ever occupy the White House, the mocker of war heroes, the gleeful grabber of women's private parts, the serial bankrupter of businesses, the useful idiot of Vladimir Putin, and the guy who insisted there are good people among murderous neo-Nazis, that he's still not fooling most Americans into believing he's even slightly competent in his current post, or that he possesses a scintilla of integrity. Better to have some vermin living in your neighborhood than to be one. End quote, Baltimore Sun. Of course, Trump doesn't know when a nobody like me calls him a filthy fucking pig. How would he know? And he doesn't know when one of the country's leading newspapers, the Baltimore Sun, Mark Twain used to write for the Baltimore Sun, when the Baltimore Sun writes an editorial that insists that he is a piece of shit that he really is. He doesn't hear any of this. He doesn't read any of this. He is protected from knowing this. The only thing that enters into his head are the cheers from the Nazis who attend his Fourth Reich rallies, and the people who whisper in his ear. If you don't whisper in his ear, you're gone. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity. But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcasts. You have your choice. You can listen to the ranting with the audio podcast or listen and watch me lose control with a video podcast subscription. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com, and never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.